That summer, I almost drowned at the beach when my leg cramped. Just as I was about to lose consciousness, a pair of strong arms pulled me out of the water and back onto the shore. When I opened my eyes again, I saw Josh Martin's anxious gaze. That's when I fell in love with him, utterly and completely. I thought we were meant for each other, a perfect match. But after my family went bankrupt, I accidentally discovered that Josh Martin had been secretly involved with my cousin, Emma Lewis, all along. Even the financial collapse and my parents' illnesses were partly caused by them. I gasped out a mouthful of blood and anger, my consciousness fading. When I opened my eyes again, I was back at the moment when I had just started dating Josh Martin. I was accompanying him at a mall, trying on clothes. It came back to me just a few days ago. He had complained about how everyone at his interview had been dressed in suits while he had come in plain clothes. I had thoughtfully suggested buying him some formal outfits, and persuaded him to go shopping with me. He had pretended to be reluctant but finally agreed. "Emily, does this outfit look good?" I was pulled out of my thoughts by his voice. Josh Martin tugged at his tie, looking at himself in the full-length mirror, casually asking me. "It looks good. This one suits you," I replied perfunctorily, grabbing my handbag and heading toward the exit. "My father called me back for dinner. You take your time." Josh Martin waved dismissively and had the sales assistant pack the clothes. I didn't go far, though I sat down in a quiet corner of the store. In my previous life, knowing how prideful Josh Martin was, I had always secretly paid whenever we went out shopping to spare his ego. He would scold me for wasting money, and I would smile and promise it wouldn't happen again. Now watching him walk toward the exit with shopping bags, the sales assistant hurried after him, calling security to stop him. Josh Martin froze, confused, glancing at her. "Sir, you haven't paid yet. Cash or card?" the sales assistant asked with a smile, signaling the security guard to block the exit. "The woman who just left is my girlfriend." "Didn't she go to pay?" Josh Martin stammered, panic rising. He hadn't expected me not to pay. That had never happened before. "I'm afraid not, sir. She already left, but payment is still required," the sales assistant said, her smile vanishing. She scrutinized him with a look that mocked him, and coldly added, "If you don't have money, don't shop at luxury stores. Nowadays anyone can be kept. I wonder what kind of luck he has." Josh Martin's face flushed red. Nervously, he muttered, "I don't like this color. I don't want it," and hurriedly threw the clothes aside, running out, ignoring her further words. "We can customize any outfit, but you need money for that." The sales assistant turned to share the ridiculous scene with her colleagues. "Molly Johnson, what's wrong? Why did you leave without saying a word?" Not long after, Josh Martin called, furious, blaming me instead of admitting his own embarrassment. In the past, I would have endured his temper because I loved him. But not anymore. "I already warned you. Have you been forgetting things lately? Do you need to see a doctor?" I replied leisurely, enjoying my dessert, taking my time. He seemed taken aback, unprepared for me to push back. I realized I had been blind before letting him push me around just because I liked him. "I won't say more. I'm almost home," I said, suppressing my nausea, and hung up immediately, not giving him a chance to respond. Back at home, my father was reading the newspaper on the sofa, and my mother was watering the plants. Tears streamed down my face uncontrollably, seeing my parents healthy and well. My mother hadn't turned white from the family's troubles, and my father hadn't been sued for unpaid loans. My mother rushed over, worried. "Did something happen? Are you upset?" Hearing her voice, my father put down the newspaper and joined us. I embraced them both tightly. "I'm fine. I just missed you so much," I said. "Mimi, you scared your father and me," my mother sighed in relief. She asked gently about my school life. "And Josh Martin? How are you two?" In my past life, my parents had warned me about Josh Martin. His sensitive nature made him a poor match. But I had romanticized him after he saved me at the beach and ignored their advice. Eventually, they relented and allowed us to be together. I had even introduced him to our family business for an internship. My father had taught him how to run a business, investing in his first startup. I helped by connecting resources and managing tasks for him. Who knew all this would become a dagger aimed at our family? We're doing fine, I said, keeping the fact that I had been reborn a secret. Even I would find it absurd without the experience. I didn't want to worry my parents. This time, I would protect them and make that scumbag pay. Since that unpleasant incident, Josh Martin hadn't spoken to me for several days. I didn't mind one bit. I was enjoying the peace and had no desire to deal with him. Instead, I kept myself busy, heading to the library every day to review my studies. It had been so long since I'd been back on campus that I was nearly forgetting everything in my textbooks. These days were, without a doubt, the happiest since my rebirth. The lightheartedness of campus life had made me feel younger and freer than I had in years. But good times never last. I guess Josh Martin, thinking I'd been left alone for a few days and that the timing was right, invited me to have lunch at the cafeteria. Molly, what a coincidence. You're eating with Josh? I looked up to see Emma Lewis in a white dress, smiling sweetly. Though she called my name, her eyes kept glancing at my side. I glanced toward Josh Martin and sure enough, he was staring at Emma Lewis, completely captivated. Ma Lewis, I almost forgot about her. She was my aunt's daughter. My aunt had gotten pregnant out of wedlock, and the man had abandoned her. My aunt remarried, but I had heard her stepfather wasn't kind to her. Because of our family ties and her unfortunate upbringing, my mother had always been lenient toward her. May had been taking things from me since we were children, anything from toys to my friends. She would go to great lengths to snatch them away. I should have realized long ago, someone who loved taking what was mine would never leave my boyfriend alone. I smiled to myself, my eyes cold as I looked at Emma Lewis. Since we've met, why not sit and eat together, I said. If you love taking things of mine so much, then enjoy this boyfriend too. I watched Josh Martin and Emma Lewis interact with a cold detachment. Melly, a few days from now my friends and I are going hiking. Are you and Josh free? Of course, I replied. We were just talking about going hiking the other day. Josh Martin quickly agreed, as if afraid I'd refuse. In my previous life, Emma Lewis had invited us to hike with her friends. During the climb, she deliberately shoved me, causing me to sprain my ankle. Then she walked ahead with her friends, completely ignoring my injury. By the time I reached the summit, they were laughing around the bonfire. Josh Martin even scolded me for holding everyone back, as if it were my fault. I could only hold back my tears and apologize. After everyone had vented, Emma Lewis feigned kindness. I'm looking forward to it, she said. I smiled at her, but the warmth didn't reach my eyes. On the day of the hike, I dressed lightly. Ma Lewis appeared in a pink dress, carrying a white handbag, her feet in high heels, walking gracefully. Wow, Emma, all designer stuff, right? I heard you're the heiress of the Johnson Group. It's true, one of the girls exclaimed, envious. Ma smiled but didn't deny it. My parents had taught me to be modest, so I had never flaunted my family's wealth. Even Josh Martin only knew my family was wealthy, not the details. Ma Lewis often visited my mother, fueling rumors that she was actually my father's daughter. She never denied the rumors, sometimes subtly confirming them. Why doesn't the Johnson heiress have the surname Johnson? I teased. Mama's expression changed briefly before she replied, I follow my mother's surname. That was true, her stepfather didn't favor her, so she kept her aunt's surname. That's normal. Ma's just modest. How can you doubt her so casually? Josh Martin explained to her, his gaze on Emma suddenly heated. Ma's cheeks flushed and she smiled as she led everyone up the mountain. During the climb, Josh Martin kept chatting with Emma Lewis. There are wild monkeys up here. You can feed them some snacks. Last time, thanks to you feeding the stray cats, they survived, he said, taking bread from his bag and offering it to her. I knew Emma had always hated animals. She would throw stones at them. When our childhood cat scratched her pants, she kicked it repeatedly until it died on the way to the vet. After that, I never kept pets again. So how could she be feeding stray cats now, conveniently under Josh Martin's watchful eye? If he knew it was all an act, I shivered to imagine his reaction. I decided to keep my distance, especially since wild monkeys aren't as tame as cats. Ms. Coles finally attracted a monkey. She held her dress with one hand to protect it, while feeding the monkey with the other, trying not to show her disgust. The bread ran out, but the monkey continued to demand more. Ma reluctantly shrugged, and the monkey jumped onto her, clawing at her bag. May's sharp scream escaped her lips as she tried to shake it off, but the monkey wouldn't relent. Throw the bag, the girl shouted, realizing the monkey wanted the contents. Ma hesitated, but the monkey tangled her hair and tore her dress. She finally threw the bag, and the monkey, finding nothing edible, climbed away. Ma Lewis stood there, disheveled, clothes torn, looking completely embarrassed. I couldn't help but smile. The bag's still here, I muttered. Josh Martin sheepishly picked up Emma Lewis's bag and handed it back to her. Miss snatched it, fuming, and walked ahead. As she passed me, she shot me a venomous glare. Josh Martin, of course, followed her up the mountain. With those annoying to out of the way, I leisurely climbed, enjoying the scenery along the trail. Emily, what a coincidence. You're hiking here too? I looked up and saw Adam Brooks, his face warm and gentle under the sunlight, smiling at me with soft eyes. He had lived next door when we were kids, but his family had moved abroad, and over time we lost touch. Adam Brooks. When did you come back? I asked, pleasantly surprised to see my childhood friend again. I've been back for a few years. My family returned to run the business, so I came with them, he replied. I bombarded him with questions about his life abroad. His stories were vivid, and I could practically see all the lively scenes he described. We laughed and talked all the way up. Since my rebirth, I rarely felt this relaxed. When we reached the summit, Emma Lewis and Josh Martin hadn't arrived. I soon learned that they had gotten separated from the group and no one knew where they were. As darkness crept in, two figures hobbled toward us from the shadows. It was none other than Emma Lewis and Josh Martin. Both were covered in bruises and mud-stained clothes, looking utterly miserable. Josh had even lost a shoe. Mo's carefully applied morning makeup was smeared across her face, resembling a crude, messy palette. Apparently in a fit of anger, Me had taken a shortcut, and the two of them had tumbled into a ditch, taking ages to climb back up. I couldn't help but laugh at the ridiculous sight. Emily, look at Josh. He's hurt so badly. Aren't you going to care as his girlfriend? Mo's fake sweet voice made me nauseous. He's a grown man. Does he really need two women to help him? I shot back. Mo was momentarily speechless, but quickly shifted the topic to me. Emily, who's this bodyguard with you? Why have I never heard of him? Josh Martin, angered, pointed at Adam Brooks, demanding an explanation. Ma puffed up her chest, smug and triumphant. But paired with her swollen, pig-like face, it was absolutely comical. I ignored her comment and instead pretended to notice her face for the first time, pointing at it in mock horror. Ma hastily grabbed a mirror from her bag, screamed, and realizing she had been walking around with that face all along, covered her cheeks with her hands and stormed off in a huff. Josh Martin looked like he wanted to ask something, but I quickly waved him off, fearing Emma would get lost alone. That kind of person isn't worthy of being your girlfriend, Adam Brooks muttered, anger hidden in his voice. Soon, she won't be, I thought to myself, both telling Adam and reminding myself. Since that hike, Josh Martin and Emma Lewis had been getting closer. They often met in secret, and I pretended not to notice. One day, I went to the broadcasting station to deliver a manuscript Emma had requested. Inside, I saw Emma Lewis and Josh Martin laughing together at the desk. Josh Martin froze briefly when he saw me, asking why I was there. I smiled at him. How could I blame him for being disturbed? I was also curious what game was Emma playing, calling me over? Millie, this isn't the manuscript I wanted. I asked for the one from the sports meet. If I don't have it, there will be a broadcasting mishap, Naya snapped, glaring at the paper in her hands. She had explicitly told me to bring it the day before. Now she was pretending to forget, waiting for me. Really? I crossed my arms, giving her a half smile that didn't reach my eyes. No swallowed nervously, unable to meet my gaze. How can you mess up something so small? Josh Martin said, stepping beside her, looking at me with disdain. With him backing her, Miss seemed to gain confidence, smirking at me. The sports meet manuscript is in the storage room at the back, I said, not revealing Emma's childish ploy. She had always loved to make me look foolish in front of others. Then help me fetch it, Emily, Mamley said haughtily, gesturing for me to go. I shrugged and walked past them. Passing the microphone, I accidentally turned it on. Once inside the storage room, I closed the door, put on headphones, and connected to the campus broadcast. Josh, what are you doing? Emily's still here. What if she sees you? It's fine, the door's closed. She can't see, came his voice. Oh, you're so naughty. You like me like this anyway. Besides, doing it in front of her is more exciting. Moa and Josh's contrived voices made me want to gag. I imagine the whole campus must be hearing their shameless banter. When the timing felt right, I deliberately stomped toward the door, giving them plenty of time to react. I opened the door, seeing Emma fixing her clothes and hair, slightly disheveled. I curved my lips and handed over the manuscript. This time, she took the manuscript silently, without a word, a lingering blush still on her cheeks. Back in the dorm, my roommates looked at me with sympathetic eyes, hesitant to speak. Emily, check the campus forum. Brace yourself, one finally said. I knew then that the broadcast station incident had probably already blown up. Opening the forum, the entire page was filled with discussions about it. Netizens had even given them nicknames, cheating sister and cheating brother. I pretended to have just realized what had happened. First, I feigned anger, then sadness, my eyes filling with tears. My roommates came over to console me, and I used the excuse of needing to go home to collect myself. In reality, I couldn't contain myself for even a second. I was afraid I'd laugh in front of them. I sent the forum's audio to Josh Martin, and didn't speak to him again. Back at home, I sprawled on the sofa, happily scrolling through the forum. How can there be such shameless people? Cheating right in front of the official partner, does it feel good? Just a bunch of trash together. Hope they get locked up so they can't harm anyone else. I nodded in agreement. Sounds like the cheating sister's voice is Emma Lewis from the broadcast station. Exactly her. Today was her turn. I saw her go in. Who would have thought that the seemingly innocent, pitiful girl secretly likes to steal other people's boyfriends? Female identity confirmed. Now the guy, come on, spill it. Soon, Josh Martin's classmates anonymously revealed his identity. His girlfriend's pretty rich, she often sends him stuff. Having a wealthy girlfriend isn't enough? He has to cheat too? Cheating brother can't stop freeloading. Her Emma Lewis is even richer. Why are you calling it cheating? Listening to the audio, it's just normal friends. Are you also jealous, scared someone will steal your boyfriend? One user tried to defend them, but faced with the overwhelming crowd, no one supported him. Are you Emma Lewis using an alt account? The audio proof hits me in the face. Solid evidence. People can't be shameless like this, right? Reading the forum posts, I wondered if it really could be Emma Lewis herself. By evening, Josh Martin called. His tone was unpleasant, insisting he and Emma Lewis were just friends, and lecturing me not to be petty. I rolled my eyes inwardly, still trying to pin blame on me. Some people never learn. You're already with Emma Lewis, so why are you calling me? I asked, curious about his motive. Today's incident is a misunderstanding between you and everyone else. If you go clarify it on the forum, I'll let it go, he said shamelessly. My disbelief reached new heights. Truly, there is no limit to shamelessness. I scoffed, telling him to clarify it himself and see who would believe him. After the forum erupted, Adam Brooks somehow heard about it. Furious, he wanted to confront Josh Martin, but I hurriedly stopped him, promising to handle it properly. The next day, Adam insisted on giving me a ride back to school. I couldn't refuse. On the way, Josh Martin stormed toward us. Behind him, Emma Lewis's eyes were red and swollen, as if she'd cried all night. I couldn't help but feel a thrill at the thought they probably hadn't slept a wink either. "Nummely Johnson, you've become so mean lately. Don't make me dislike you," Josh Martin said, his voice full of righteous indignation. I found it laughable, still trying to manipulate me with liking or disliking. Did he really think I was the same Emily Johnson who would silently endure his bullying? Seeing him made my chest tighten. Adam Brooks stepped forward, extending an arm to block him, giving him a warning glare. I glanced at the growing crowd, ready to watch the show, knowing this was my chance. To get rid of Josh Martin completely, I had to humiliate him publicly, break his pride, and make sure he would never dare show off in front of me again. I looked both of them in the eye, my voice calm but firm. "Josh Martin, I know what happened yesterday. You've long been secretly involved with Emma Lewis. Why not take this chance, and things cleanly, and be done with it?" Josh Martin, caught off guard, ground his teeth. "You dare." The crowd around us grew, pointing and whispering. I ignored his threats and walked straight toward Emma Lewis. As I passed her, I leaned close and whispered in her ear that I had turned on the microphone, then strode away. Emma Lewis's angry curses followed me, her usual innocent facade completely gone. She grabbed Josh Martin's arm, crying, insisting it was all my scheme to embarrass them. Josh Martin finally reacted, lunging forward to grab my hand. "You deliberately set us up, how cruel you are," he shouted. "Do as you please, but you've only reaped the consequences of your own actions," I replied calmly. It was too late for them now, far beyond the damage they had inflicted on me before. Adam Brooks stormed over, prying Josh Martin's hands off me. Grabbing him by the collar, he warned him not to come near me again. They'd already moved on, so why are they still clinging to their ex? Some people's shamelessness is thicker than a city wall. Are cheaters and home wreckers really this brazen nowadays? If it were me, I'd be too embarrassed to show my face in public. The onlookers couldn't hold back their scorn and chimed in one after another. "Cheating guy, cheating girl." Someone in the crowd shouted, and the scene erupted like a powder keg. Hearing the laughter and ridicule all around him, Josh Martin finally lost his composure, pushing through the crowd and fleeing. Even as Emma Lewis called after him, he didn't respond. Stomping her foot, Emma chased after him. Watching the two of them run off in panic, I couldn't help but feel an immense sense of satisfaction. After that day, Adam Brooks began visiting me frequently. He would suggest going out to relax. We went to amusement parks, hiked mountains, and visited exhibitions together. Spending time with him, I realized we shared many interests and even resonated on a deeper, almost spiritual level. But over time, I noticed my parents subtly trying to set us up. At first, I thought they were just worried I couldn't handle the heartbreak from breaking up with Josh Martin, so I tried to explain that Adam and I were just friends. Lately, though, I kept bumping into Adam Brooks unexpectedly, and each accidental eye contact left him looking flustered and quickly averting his gaze. I started avoiding him, even staying away from home to dodge running into him. When I did see him alone, I scrambled for excuses to escape. I could face a cheater without flinching, but I didn't know how to present myself around him, so avoidance became the only option. Seeing my gloom, my mother persuaded me to go shopping with her to lift my spirits. I couldn't refuse her, so I set aside my worries and went along. She noticed my unease around Adam and gently offered advice. "Feelings should take their natural course, forcing anything isn't worth it." Listening to her, I finally relaxed. Yes, let it happen naturally, time would reveal the answers. Feeling lighter, I happily accompanied my mother on our shopping trip. She picked out a few outfits and asked me to try them on. "This is the beautiful Emily I know. How long has it been since you pampered yourself?" Looking in the mirror, I saw a radiant version of myself. In my past life, I had always put Josh Martin first, worrying about his feelings. I went barefaced daily because he didn't like makeup. I avoided pretty dresses and expensive bags, afraid he might feel insecure. I had nearly forgotten that I, too, loved to be stylish. It felt wonderful finally free from a cheater. I could be my carefree self again. You look amazing, these outfits suit you perfectly. Pick a few more for Emma too, she's been worried about you and asked me to take you out for a bit of fun. My mother knew only that I had broken up with Josh Martin. She didn't know what Emma Lewis had done. But Emma? She certainly shouldn't be this kind, surely she must despise me by now. Where is Emma Lewis right now? I asked. She said the flowers in the garden haven't been thriving, so she's tending to them. She wanted to make sure I could spend time with you in peace. Mima was in our home, and I had no idea what she might be scheming. I had to get back before she did something reckless. Hurrying home with a few excuses, I approached the garden and heard laughter in the distance. So you're the Johnson heiress? Your house is incredible. Absolutely. We always thought Emma was elegant and refined, not like ordinary people. Josh Martin, you really hit the jackpot. Emily Johnson is so petty, she doesn't even deserve to carry Emma's shoes. Exactly. She's just jealous of Emma and Josh's perfect match, spreading lies about her. Good thing Emma is kind-hearted and doesn't bother with people like her. Melis and Josh Martin stood at the center, admired and fawned over by everyone. The flattery inflated Emma's ego further, while Josh, lost in admiration, looked at her with increasing tenderness. You're the most beautiful in my heart. No one can ever compare to you, he whispered. The crowd cheered and Josh Martin pulled Emma into a hug. She blushed, shy but pleased. Thank you all for coming to celebrate my birthday. But my parents prefer I don't make a scene, so I appreciate you leaving early, Emma said, clearly assuming the role of hostess. The guests politely left, showing their understanding. It was then I realized, me had been parading around under my name all this time. She even orchestrated today to keep my mother and me away, all to satisfy her vanity. If I hadn't returned early, she would have succeeded. Fuming, I clapped loudly as I stepped forward. What a fine little performance, I said. No Lewis turned pale as she saw me. The others instinctively sneered. It's Emma's birthday, what are you doing here? Were you invited, or did you just crash? Have you regretted it, trying to win Josh Martin back this way? Ma kept her head low, silent. Josh Martin, hearing the whispers, seemed to think I was jealous. He arrogantly stepped forward. I'm happy with Emma. No point in being jealous, he scoffed. Really, let's see if you can still smile later, I replied. What do you mean, he asked, confused. Ignoring him, I walked toward Emma Lewis, who was shrinking in fear. So, Johnson heiress, is that right? And you think you're worthy? I said. Parading around under my name, pretending to be me. And now you dare show up at my home as if I don't exist. Ma Lewis buried her head further, clutching her dress tightly. The onlookers were stunned. Seeing Emma quiet and powerless, the crowd seemed to realize the truth. Those closest to her backed away, whispering among themselves. Josh Martin stared at me in shock, then glanced at Emma Lewis. Speak up. You're not really saying that, are you? Josh Martin began to panic, clutching Emma Lewis and shaking her violently. Mel Lewis seemed to have reached her limit. Huge tears streamed down uncontrollably. Her crying only reinforced everyone's belief in my words. So it was all an act, no wonder her demeanor didn't match. Yeah, she's always carrying the same designer bag. Who knows if it's even real? How can someone so vain deceive us like this? Stealing someone else's identity isn't enough, she had to steal someone else's boyfriend too. Pathetic. Dumping a true heiress for a fake one. Josh really has an eye for it. The school forum wasn't wrong. Neither of them is innocent. The very people who had been fawning over them now turned against them. Overwhelmed by the harsh whispers around her, Mae Lewis burst out, sobbing hysterically. I really am the Johnson heiress. All of this should have been mine. It's her, she made me like this. Why does all the good stuff go to you? Mima was referring to the past. Her aunt had gotten pregnant before marriage and, fearing exposure, begged my mother to adopt her. My mother, soft-hearted, wanted to agree, but my father intervened, offering only basic support. Later, May somehow learned of this and convinced herself that I was the reason she wasn't allowed into my home. Watching her unravel, I signaled the security guards to escort the guests out. Mololas was dragged away by the guards, and those she had brought left immediately. Only Josh Martin remained, disbelief etched on his face, his cheeks flushed red. He clutched his head and muttered over and over, "Impossible, this can't be." Pushing past the guards, he rushed to me, desperate. "Maylee, believe me, I've always liked you. Lewis seduced me, I only made a mistake because of her." The guards quickly held him back, one on each side, trying to drag him away. He struggled furiously, shouting at me as he was taken, "Emily Johnson, have you forgotten that I saved your life? I almost died for you." His words made my mind drift back to that summer. I had been upset and went to the beach alone to clear my mind. Swimming in the sea calmed me, letting me forget my troubles until I realized I had drifted far from shore. By the time I noticed, the people on the beach were tiny dots in the distance. Panicking, I tried to swim back, but the more I struggled, the worse it got. My legs cramped from overexertion. I cried out, thrashing in the water, hoping someone would rescue me. My strength waned, my lungs burned, and I slowly sank beneath the waves, thinking my life was over. In a haze, I felt strong arms lift me up, carrying me to the surface and swimming me back toward shore. I tried to open my eyes to see who it was, but couldn't. When I finally opened them, I was lying on the sand, feeling like I had narrowly escaped death. A face loomed over me, anxious and focused. He told me he was a lifeguard. Seeing him soaking wet, I assumed he had saved me, and a strange warmth rose in my chest. I thanked him, but missed the flicker of panic in his eyes. I was grateful to the person who saved me during a low point in my life, feeling as if he had pulled me from both water and despair. Learning we attended the same school felt like fate, and within a few days we started seeing each other. I soon realized he came from a humble background, working as a lifeguard to support himself. I was careful to help him discreetly, not wanting to hurt his pride by revealing my true identity. He believed I was just an ordinary wealthy girl, which explained why he had run away from the pretentious Emma Lewis. In my past life, he had known my identity, but still stayed with her. I no longer tried to decipher the mind of a cheater. The love I had given, the pain I endured in my past life, all had left me utterly disillusioned. He had saved me once, but also nearly destroyed me once. In that sense, we were even. Snapping back to the present, I looked at Josh Martin, struggling as the guards dragged him away. I took a deep breath, expressionless, and calmly said, "I don't owe you anything anymore." Then I turned and walked away, ignoring his shouts behind me. After Josh left, a heaviness settled over me. I thought I could remain indifferent to him since my rebirth, but when he mentioned the beach, my heart wavered. That had been the moment I first felt something for him. Perhaps it was just hormones, but the rush I felt when he pulled me from the water had been real. My emotions were a mess. Unconsciously, I found myself at the same beach, watching people play in the distance. The calm blue water betrayed the hidden currents beneath. A security guard noticed me staring and approached. "Miss, are you here to play in the water? You'll need a ticket over there." I politely declined, citing my past near drowning. "Oh? A few years ago, a girl almost drowned here too. A lifeguard was fired after that incident," the guard added. Curiosity piqued, I asked him to elaborate. "That lifeguard, he was negligent on duty, let visitors enter the deep water zone, and didn't rescue anyone in time. It almost ended in disaster." I felt a chill run down my spine. Something didn't feel right. I asked urgently, "Do you remember the lifeguard's name?" "I can't recall clearly, he was a college student. I think his surname was Martin something." "Josh Martin, was it?" Yes, that's the name." It felt as if the ground had collapsed beneath me. This wasn't what I knew at all. Josh Martin wasn't the one who saved me. How could this be? And the girl, how was she rescued in the end? By a visitor. "I even have a photo from the scene," the guard continued. "The manager enlarged it and posted it here as a warning for every future lifeguard." I borrowed the photo with trembling hands. In it, I lay on the sand, while crouched nearby, keeping an eye on me, was Josh Martin. On the other side a young man lay not far off, surrounded by a few others. The guard pointed at Josh Martin. This was the lifeguard who had been fired. He had simply been lucky that no one complained, otherwise he could have lost everything. So that was it. Josh Martin, to escape responsibility, had lied to me. From the very beginning, it had all been a lie. No wonder I could never break into his world, no matter how hard I tried. He had never truly loved me. All these years, I had fallen for a fraud. Did he enjoy seeing me dance around, hopelessly caught up in him? I was furious with myself. How could I have let someone like him make me miserable? The guard then pointed to the young man lying on the sand. This is the one who saved her. I looked closely. It was Adam Brooks. How could it be him? I laughed bitterly at the irony of fate. I had fallen for a liar who I thought saved my life, yet I had avoided the one who truly did. I was such a fool. It took a second life to finally know the truth. Trembling, I pulled out my phone and called Adam Brooks. The ringing made my heart race. I longed to hear his voice. Hello? A deep, magnetic voice sounded on the other end. I asked turgently, Adam Brooks, where are you now? Though puzzled, he told me his location. Stay there. I'm coming right now. I need to talk to you. I hung up and immediately hailed a cab, desperate to get to him. In the car, I stared straight ahead, clutching my phone tightly, willing the world to move faster. When I got out, I scanned the area. Adam Brooks was standing quietly under a tree, watching the surroundings as if waiting for something. The moment I saw him, my racing heart instantly calmed. I shouted his name and he looked over, smiling and waving. I ran toward him, laughing, almost at his side. Then I saw Adam's expression change. He shouted, "No!" In an instant, a tremendous force slammed into me. I felt weightless, then crashed hard onto the ground. I caught sight of Josh Martin pinned under a crowd, his face twisted into a grotesque grin as he laughed maniacally at me. Pain surged through me, my vision blurred, and I heard, somewhere in the haze, Adam Brooks screaming in anguish. Then everything went black. Even in unconsciousness, I could hear a low, steady male voice speaking. I struggled to make out the words. That Josh Martin, what a scumbag. He tricked your feelings, and even tried to kill you. Don't worry. No one who hurt you will go unpunished. Josh Martin's been caught. I won't let him get away with it. Wake up, okay? I haven't even heard what you wanted to say to me. You're so stubborn. If you didn't like me, you'd avoid me. If you don't want me, then wake up. I won't pester you again, alright? My head throbbed, but finally, I caught every word. I struggled to open my eyes, and there he was, Adam Brooks, sitting beside my bed, head bowed, eyes glistening with unshed tears. Not dead, I rasped through my dry throat. Adam Brooks whipped his head toward me, disbelief and joy flooding his expression. You're awake? Not good, I like you. From stunned to realizing, joy lit up his face at a visible rush. He lunged forward and pulled me into a tight embrace. Finally, I've been waiting for you. Relief flooded my heart. He hadn't given up on me, and now I was finally with him. I earned a monthly salary of $30,000, and my employers, a refined, gentle couple, made me feel like I had stepped into a fairy tale home. When I unexpectedly became pregnant, the kind-hearted lady of the house didn't chase me away. Instead, she promised me $2,000, urging me to carry the child to term without worry. I was moved to tears, convinced I had met someone truly good-hearted. That was until I overheard a conversation between her and her husband through the door while I was hemorrhaging in the delivery room. The master said the child's fate is noble. It's perfect for averting our son's death calamity. It's just a tool. If it dies, it dies. Then I opened my eyes and found myself back at the moment I first discovered I was pregnant. This time, clutching the pregnancy test, I marched straight to the master of the house. Caleb Morgan, I said, holding the test up. It's yours. He sprang from his chair, gripping the edge of the desk, his voice trembling with suppressed shock and rage. Madeline Stone, he said, you can eat carelessly, but you can't speak carelessly. I crossed my arms, staring at his ashen face. Half a month ago, at your daughter's birthday party, I continued. You and Brooklyn James had a huge argument on the terrace, and she stormed off to her parents' home. You were alone in the study, drinking an entire bottle of whiskey. And then? Do you need me to describe the color and texture of that dark brown leather sofa in your study? Or perhaps the location of that mole on your left shoulder? Caleb Morgan's face shifted from red to white, then to a deathly gray. He staggered, clutching the desk for support, barely able to stand. It was the same reaction he had last time. Then, with a near breakdown expression, he pleaded with me, telling me how much he loved his wife, how much he loved his family, and that night was just a drunken accident. He begged me, for God's sake, not to ruin him. Last time, I foolishly agreed to keep his secret while watching this usually arrogant man weep with regret before me. This time, I found the whole scene unbearably ironic. I looked at him coldly, my voice devoid of any warmth. Save your words. I said. 500,000. I'll disappear from your house right now and never return. As for the child, I'll handle it myself. 500,000. That had been my price for buying off a life in my last life. Caleb Morgan's pupils constricted sharply, as if he had just heard some impossible figure. He opened his mouth, but before he could speak, the study door was gently pushed open. Brooklyn James walked in, carrying a bowl of crystal clear bird's nest soup, smiling brightly. Caleb, Madeline, what are you talking about? Her gaze landed on the glaring pregnancy test, and her smile faltered for just a moment. But within a second, she restored her usual warm, caring expression. She placed the bowl delicately on the corner of the desk and walked over to me. Her eyes were filled with concern and tenderness, as if she hadn't seen anything at all. Madeline, what's going on? I said nothing, simply watching her act. She picked up the pregnancy test, studied it carefully, then let out a long sigh, a glimmer of tears forming in her eyes. She didn't glance at Caleb Morgan once, instead grasping my hand tightly. Her well-kept hands felt warm and soft, but at that moment, I felt an involuntary wave of nausea. Madeline, don't be afraid, she said. This isn't your fault. Caleb just drank too much and made a mistake. You're so young, your sister won't let you suffer any loss. Without asking, she slid a jade bangle vivid green, flawless off her own wrist and fastened it onto mine. The icy touch made me shiver. Wear this first to calm your nerves. As for the child, rest assured. As long as you're willing, carry it safely to term. I'll raise it for you. After all, it will be my own child in the future. She paused, then looked at me with gentle sincerity. Also, I'll give you a figure. She held up two slender fingers, waving them in front of me. My heart raced, and I forced a smile, pretending to be thrilled. 2 million? I asked. Brooklyn James shook her head gently. Her beautiful eyes finally revealed a trace of haughty contempt. 20 million, she said. As long as you obey. Exactly the same lines as last time, not a word changed. This net, woven with false warmth, once again descended over my head. Behind it lurked endless malice and icy calculation. I stared at her, hatred threatening to burst from my eyes, but I forced it down. I smiled. A smile like a naive girl struck down by a fortune. Fine. I saw relief wash over both Brooklyn James and Caleb Morgan. I took Brooklyn James' hand, taking the lead, and said with complete trust, Brooklyn, I'll follow your instructions. But I'm not used to living alone, and I'm worried I won't take good care of myself or the baby. For the child's sake, I want to stay here, under your personal care, so I can feel at ease. Brooklyn James' smile froze for a moment, then returned, warm and tender enough to make water rise. She squeezed my hand, her nails pressing into my flesh, yet her words were honeyed. Of course, silly little sister. From now on, this'll be your home. I officially moved into the Morgan family villa. The guest room was quickly converted into a full maternity suite. The carpets were replaced with non-slip flooring, and all sharp furniture edges were padded. Brooklyn James treated me better than her own daughter. She cooked every meal herself, preparing a variety of nutritious dishes, making sure I and the baby were well taken care of. At night, without fail, she would bring me a bowl of dark, expensive tonic, staring at me until I drank every last drop before leaving. Madeline, this is a prenatal tonic I specially requested from the mountains. Worth a fortune, it's the best for the baby. She smiled gently, but her eyes carried a kind of surveillance that brooked no refusal. I obediently nodded and drank it all in front of her every single time. But as soon as she left, I would dash to the bathroom and lock the door. I'd spit the potion into the toilet and rinse my mouth repeatedly until the strange, lingering taste vanished completely. In my previous life, I had been foolish enough to blindly consume everything. I went from barely over 90 pounds to nearly 160, causing the baby to grow too large, and ultimately dying from complications on the operating table. This time, I only ate ordinary food and vitamins I had packed myself. On the third day after moving in, I noticed something strange. At the end of the second-floor hallway stood a redwood door, locked tight for years. I asked the housekeeper, Samantha Gray, what it was. Her face went pale, and she waved her hands frantically, refusing to speak. Feigning casual curiosity, I asked Brooklyn James about it. Her expression changed subtly for just a moment. Oh, that's our family's prayer room. It's where we honor the household deity and pray for the family's blessings. She gently rested her hand on my belly, warning me softly. But the energy there is a bit heavy. You're pregnant and physically weak, so you mustn't go near it. Otherwise, it could affect the baby. I smiled and nodded on the surface, but in my heart, I sneered. A prayer room? More like a death chamber. From that moment on, I paid closer attention to that room. Late at night, I could vaguely hear the faint, rhythmic sound of a wooden fish from behind the door, along with a strange, indescribable scent some herb mixed with sandalwood wafting through the hallway, making my head spin the longer I breathed it in. One night, as I was about to sleep, there was a soft knock at my door. I opened it to see Caleb Morgan standing there, looking exhausted and conflicted. He didn't enter, but quickly shoved a bank card into my hand. His movements fast and furtive, as if doing something clandestine. There's 500,000 on this, he said, his voice low, trembling slightly. Madeline Stone, listen to me. Tomorrow, make up an excuse and leave this place. The farther you go, the better. I held the cold card, raising an eyebrow. What do you mean, Caleb Morgan? Brooklyn has been very kind to me. Kind, he sneered bitterly. She's gone mad, this family isn't normal. His eyes were bloodshot, filled with raw, unmasked fear. Do you think letting you carry the baby is an act of kindness? She's trying to harm you, and me too. I looked at him without a flicker of emotion. Had he been even half as clear-headed as this in my previous life, I wouldn't have ended up in that situation. I don't know what you're talking about. I pulled my hand away, intending to return the card. This is between you and Brooklyn. I don't want to be involved. But he grabbed my wrist with startling strength, his eyes wild with desperation and madness. His voice dropped even lower. Take the money and leave, if you don't, we'll both die. I stared at Caleb Morgan's terrified face, feeling nothing but coldness in my heart. I yanked my hand free and threw the card back into his chest. I'm not leaving, I said firmly. I trust Brooklyn more than I trust you. His expression darkened instantly, filled with helpless disappointment. He stared at me for a few seconds, then slumped and turned away. Leaning against the door after he left, my heart pounded uncontrollably. Brooklyn James' plan was far more than just finding a surrogate. I had to find out what secret that so-called prayer room was hiding. The opportunity came quickly. According to my previous life's memories, Samantha Gray the housekeeper would spend at least an hour every afternoon trimming the backyard garden at 3 o'clock. At that same time, Brooklyn James usually took her afternoon nap in her room. I pulled a master key from deep inside my luggage, prepared the moment I was reborn. The villa was silent. Holding my breath, barefoot, I crept to the end of the second-floor hallway. The familiar, nauseating herbal scent grew stronger. I inserted the key into the lock and turned it gently. Click. The faint sound seemed deafening in the still air. The door opened. I slipped inside and closed it quickly behind me. The room was pitch dark, heavy curtains blocking all sunlight. There were no divine statues or shrines. In the center stood a black wooden altar, carved with strange, twisted symbols I couldn't understand. On the altar lay a delicate baby cradle. Next to it was a rectangular wooden plaque, bearing a line of bright red characters written in cinnabar words I would never forget. Madeline Stone, born in the year of Jeng Sada month of Ding Ha, day of Jia Yin at Maor. It was my exact birth chart. Beside it, a second, identical plaque lay blank. My gaze scanned the altar and finally landed on a half-full copper incense burner in the corner. I stepped closer, forcing down the rising tide of fear and nausea, and used my fingertip to sift through the ash in the incense burner. Soon my nail hit something hard, the corner of a paper. I pulled it out. It was a yellow talisman, half-burned, its edges blackened and curled. 80 remaining strokes of ink stabbed into my eyes. Death calamity, substitute bearer, fate exchange. In an instant, all the mysteries from my last life snapped into place. Why Brooklyn James insisted I carry the baby to term. Why she showed no concern when I hemorrhaged during labor. From the moment I stepped into this house, I had been chosen as a sacrifice. The child in my womb was meant to receive her son's death calamity, that was what she called it. And I, Madeline Stone, was to be the final fuel for this fate exchange ritual. A cold so deep it cut to the bone climbed from my soles to my skull. I forced myself to calm down and photographed everything with my phone, the altar, the cradle, the wooden plaque with my birth details, the half-burned talisman. When I was done, I quietly restored everything to how it had been and slipped out of the room. That night, clutching the photos, I knocked on Caleb Morgan's study door again. This time I didn't say the words fate exchange. That would be too outrageous, he might not believe me. I showed him the pictures and pretended to be utterly terrified, trembling and sobbing. Caleb Morgan, I took a wrong turn today and saw this, I stammered. Is Brooklyn doing something unholy? Like those TV shows raising ghosts? My voice trembled with calculated fear. I'm so scared I can't keep this baby, please let me go. I'm begging you. Caleb Morgan's face went even darker than I had expected. He stared at the photos of the eerie altar, his lips quivering, terror nearly spilling from his eyes. He believed me, utterly convinced by the ghost explanation. That lunatic, he muttered, pacing the study with frantic steps. My evidence had been the straw that broke his will. Finally, he confessed everything. Brooklyn James's family made their fortune on occult feng shui and dirty tricks, he said. For some reason, boys in that branch are born with a curse, they rarely live past 3. His voice carried a resigned despair. Our son Julian was marked by a so-called master as having a death calamity, he continued. Brooklyn would do anything to save him. I covered my mouth in feigned shock and let my tears flow harder. Caleb looked at me with a complicated expression, then, as if steeling himself, said, Madeline Stone, right now the only way to save ourselves is to work together. Thus a fragile, mutually suspicious alliance was formed. The plan: I would continue to stay close to Brooklyn James, outwardly obedient while secretly collecting proof of her superstitious schemes. Caleb would contact the only ally in the Morgan family who still had influence, his mother, the real power behind the family. He stepped aside and made a hushed phone call. Unaware I was already weaving my own trap, he thought he'd found an ally, in truth he was bait in my net. He finished the call, turned to me with a look of reckless desperation. My mother arrives tomorrow, he said. Madeline Stone, you'd better not lie to me. The plan began immediately. The next day I exaggerated my pregnancy anxiety for Brooklyn James, clutching my chest and telling her I'd spent the whole night in nightmares. Brooklyn, I dreamt of a lot of children whose faces I couldn't see. They keep clinging to me, saying I stole from them, I choked. I'm so scared. Is something wrong with the baby? Brooklyn's eyes flickered, the spoon in her hand froze. But she soon resumed her gentle, comforting mask, patting the back of my hand. Silly sister, don't overthink. Dreams are just dreams. You're too worried about the baby. From that day on, the wooden fish knocks from the prayer room grew more urgent, and the audible smell thickened. Caleb began claiming urgent projects at the firm and stayed out late for days. I knew he had quietly lodged his domineering mother in a nearby five-star hotel, waiting for the right moment to make her move. I needed to add fuel to that moment. Feigning severe morning sickness and loss of appetite, I told Brooklyn I could only eat bland food. Trusting me, she had the housekeeper cook plain congee. I used the opportunity to slip out of the villa, took a taxi to the city's largest tertiary hospital, and booked an obstetrics appointment. The ultrasound showed the baby fine, developing well. Holding the warm report, relief sank like a stone in my chest. Then I walked into a print shop next to the hospital. 30 minutes later I walked out with a forged ultrasound report that read, fetal heart weak, delayed development, signs of threatened miscarriage. I took the falsified report back to the villa and stormed into Brooklyn James's room, slamming the paper down in front of her and breaking into tears on the spot. Brooklyn, look, the doctor says the baby's in serious trouble. I sobbed until I could barely breathe, my face a portrait of despair and fear. Could there be something unclean in the house affecting the baby? Brooklyn, I want to go to the temple and pray, ask for a protection charm for the baby. I just can't feel at ease otherwise. Brooklyn James took the report and her face went dark in an instant. When her eyes fell on the words fetal heart weak, the expression that flashed there was not worry for the child but cold, murderous anger, a look as venomous as a snake. She drew a slow breath, forced her emotions down, and put her warm mask back on. She hugged me and said, Madeline, don't be anxious. You can't trust every word a doctor says. We'll get a second opinion at another hospital. As for going to a temple, there are too many people and distractions. You're pregnant, you shouldn't be running around. Her voice remained gentle, but the firmness in it brooked no argument. I smiled inwardly. She was scared, afraid I might actually go out and find some master to ruin the ritual she'd painstakingly arranged. Seeing her panic, I escalated, pushing the act toward hysteria. I don't care. I can't eat anything, I just want something sour and spicy to open my appetite, I cried. I want the saucy pickled fish at the famous restaurant in the south of town. I want it now. Brooklyn's face finally lost all color. No, she snapped, her voice suddenly raw and high, almost painful to hear. It was the first time I'd seen her lose control like that. I stared at her, tears welling, pretending terror. Brooklyn, why are you so harsh? I whimpered. I just want to eat a little. Brooklyn realized she'd overreacted and forced a smile that looked worse than tears, trying to soften her tone. Madeline, I'm not being mean. It's just that place isn't clean, it's not good for a pregnant woman. You want pickled fish? I'll have Samantha Gray buy the best blackfish and I'll have it prepared for you, okay? Of course I knew her taboo. Her family's occult belief loathed any sight of blood during a ritual, especially the slaughter of a living creature at home. They believed such acts would disrupt the altar and ruin the ceremony. In my past life she'd gone cold toward me for 3 days after I accidentally cut my hand on a broken glass. I wanted to force her hand to tear off that false face before Caleb's mother arrived. So I started behaving like a spoiled child, throwing a tantrum. No. I want that restaurant's fish, I shouted. Their fish is the freshest, killed right then and there. I want that one bite. If I can't eat it, I'll feel awful, the baby will feel it too. Madeline Stone, Brooklyn snapped, finally losing patience. She grabbed my wrist hard, her face iron gray. The warmth in her eyes was gone, only a cold warning and threat remained. Don't push your luck. I said no, and that's final. What exactly do you want to do? She held me so tight it hurt, but I didn't back down. I stared her down. What do I want? I said. I want my child to be safe, this house suffocates me, I'm leaving. As our argument reached a peak, the villa door slammed open. What is all this shouting about? A powerful, authoritative female voice demanded. Caleb Morgan strode in, supporting an elderly woman in a dark tsiangzam, her hair immaculately styled and her face frosted with cold disdain. Caleb Morgan's mother, the true head of the Morgan family. The moment she entered she smelled that clinging, strange herbal scent and furrowed her brow. Seeing her hysterical daughter-in-law and the tear-streaked, wrong pregnant woman at her side, her expression immediately dark and like storm clouds. Caleb seized the moment and approached, his face a mixture of sorrow and restraint. "Mother, you finally made it." Brooklyn froze where she stood, the ferocity had barely left her face, making her look all the more monstrous. "I knew the show was about to begin." Caleb's mother swept a sharp gaze over everyone and finally fixed it on me in a tone that was anything but kind. "Who are you?" I said nothing, covering my face and weeping as if broken. Caleb quickly put himself between us and the old woman, voice cracking with distress. "Mother, this is Madeline Stone. She is carrying my child." Before the woman could react, he jabbed a finger at Brooklyn, his voice trembling. "But Brooklyn has been dabbling in some twisted rites. She's turned the house into a cesspool and is using black arts to harm Madeline and her unborn child." Caleb Morgan's mother went deathly pale. Her stare fixed on Brooklyn with a look that seemed to stroke her to pieces. Pointing down the second-floor hallway, she commanded Caleb in a cutting tone, "Caleb Morgan, smash that door open." Brooklyn James's face went instantly pale, drained of all color. "Mother, no, you can't. That's the blessing room, you can't just barge in," she screamed, lunging forward to stop them. Two bodyguards flanking Caleb Morgan's mother stepped up immediately, restraining her tightly so she couldn't move. "You've got something to hide," Caleb's mother snorted, her disdain almost palpable. She'd never respected Brooklyn James, who built her life on superstition and crooked methods, and now her disgust had reached its peak. Caleb, obeying the order, summoned two burly bodyguards, each armed with a sledgehammer, and they charged up to the second floor. Bang, bang, bang. The dull thuds of hammer against door reverberated, each one hammering directly into Brooklyn's heart. She thrashed wildly, shrieking incoherently. "No, don't break it, Caleb, I beg you, don't." I stepped closer to Caleb's mother at the perfect moment and handed her the falsified ultrasound report, my voice trembling as I whispered, "Madam, I'm so scared the doctor says the baby might not survive." Her fingers shook as she gripped the report. Wicked woman. Bang! A loud crash finally rang out upstairs as the door was smashed open. Caleb Morgan led the way. When he saw the eerie altar, the cradle, and the wooden plaque inscribed with my birth details, he immediately ran downstairs. He handed his mother the photos I had sent him as evidence, tears streaming down his face. "Mother, look, this is the black magic she's been doing," he cried. "She's trying to harm your grandson." Brooklyn James, seeing her secrets laid bare under the unforgiving light, completely collapsed. Tongue-tied, she frantically shouted out in desperation, "I did all this for your Morgan family grandson, for Julian." Her words ignited Caleb's mother's fury. "To protect the Morgan family's grandson, you wanted to kill another grandson?" She seethed, trembling with rage. She slapped Brooklyn James across the face with a sharp crack. "You poisonous woman, the Morgan family will never tolerate a daughter-in-law who brings harm and chaos." Pointing toward the door, her voice left no room for negotiation. "Now get out of the Morgan family immediately." Brooklyn James clutched her face, unable to believe what was happening. Her support, her husband, now stood firmly against her, playing the role of the innocent victim. It was over. In front of everyone, Caleb's mother directly called her lawyer, her chest heaving with fury as she yelled into the phone, pointing at Brooklyn. "James Miller, draft the divorce papers immediately. I want her out, leaving with nothing." After this earth-shattering upheaval, Brooklyn James was utterly defeated. Like a beaten dog, she was dragged out by the bodyguards, unable to take even a single piece of luggage, expelled from the Morgan estate. Caleb Morgan stood at the villa's entrance, watching his wife's humiliating retreat, with no trace of regret, only the satisfaction of victory. He thought that by driving out his deranged wife, and eliminating the family's problem, he had saved the entire household. He turned back to the living room, face glowing with relief, and approached me. From his suit pocket he pulled out a checkbook, scribbled a number, tore it off, and handed it to me. "Madeline Stone, thank you for everything," he said, his tone aimed with patronizing condescension. "This is 10 million. Enough for the rest of your life. Take care of the baby however you see fit, find a place where no one knows you, and live well. From now on, don't appear in front of anyone in the Morgan family again." I looked at the flimsy check and then at his shameless, opportunistic face throwing away the bridge once crossed. I suddenly smiled. I took the check slowly and placed it in my pocket. Then I lifted my head, my smile icy as I met his gaze. "Caleb Morgan, did you forget?" I asked. "This child is yours. Abandoning your own child, that's illegal." The smile on Caleb Morgan's face froze instantly. He squinted at me as if meeting me for the first time, his tone laced with a dangerous warning. "Madeline Stone, don't be greedy. I've given enough. Don't push your luck." "Greedy?" I laughed. "Compared to you treating human lives like trash, what I'm asking for is nothing." Caleb's face went dark. He stepped forward, lowering his voice in threat. "Don't think I don't know what you're thinking. I'm telling you, the doors of the Morgan family will be closed to you from life." "Of course, I know I can't enter the Morgan estate," I said, letting my smile fade into something chilling. "But I can make sure you leave it as well." I pulled something else from my pocket, a small black voice recorder. I pressed play, and his own voice, clear and resolute, filled the empty living room. "Brooklyn James has gone mad. This house is abnormal. Madeline Stone, now the only way we can save ourselves is together. My mother will arrive tomorrow. You make a scene, and I'll handle. Thank you for your efforts. Here 10 million, take care of the baby inside you." From the first night he sought me out, to the way we plotted together, to how we planned to corner Brooklyn James step by step, and finally to just now, when he tried to use money to dismiss me and the child, every word, every sentence, clear and unaltered. Caleb Morgan's face shifted from shock to panic, and finally settled into a hollow, dead despair. He looked at me as though staring at a demon. You were plotting against me?" I turned off the recorder and smiled at him, a radiant, almost blinding grin. "Caleb Morgan, while the mantis stalks the cicada, the oriole watches from behind. I wasn't pregnant at all. That very night, I went to the pharmacy and got emergency contraception. Every subsequent prenatal report, starting from the very first, had been meticulously forged by me." I handed the recorder, untouched and intact, to Caleb Morgan's mother. This woman, who had spent a lifetime making ruthless decisions in the business world, fell silent for a full 10 minutes after hearing it. She looked at her son, so false, so foolish, and her eyes brimmed with endless disappointment. To preserve the Morgan family's dignity, and prevent this high society scandal from becoming public, she had no choice. She handed me another check, the number on it even higher than the one Caleb had given me. She promised that Caleb Morgan would never again appear in my life, never again harass or interfere with me. I accepted the 2 fortunes, enough to give me true financial freedom with complete calm. What followed, I only pieced together from bits of financial news. Caleb Morgan, disgraced and exposed for his manipulations of his family, was completely abandoned by his mother. He was ousted from the core of the Morgan Group, stripped of all shares, and reduced to a powerless figurehead, a man with only a name, no authority. His meticulous schemes ended in utter ruin, an outcome even more pathetic than that of his wife, whom he had expelled. As for Brooklyn James's family, the cursed ritual backfired. Strange occurrences plagued their home, their business collapsed, and within a short time, they declared bankruptcy, drowning in massive debt. Brooklyn James herself, crushed by divorce and the ruin of her family, lost her mind entirely and was eventually admitted to a mental institution. And the son they had sacrificed to lights to protect, Julian Rhodes, on the day before his 3rd birthday, he suddenly fell ill and could not be saved. Karma had completed its circle. I stood by the airport's floor-to-ceiling window, gripping my suitcase, watching a plane roar into the sky. I had booked a one-way ticket to a southern coastal city. The past was like a nightmare I could never wake from. And now, I had ripped that nightmare to shreds and trampled it underfoot. I turned, slipped on my sunglasses, and melted into the bustling crowd. Sunlight streamed through the glass, warm on my skin. My new life, mine, Madeline Stone's, truly began at that moment.